Hey everybody, Matt here at AVC and welcome back to the shop. Today we're going over ceiling panel lighting and the ins and outs of our roof system. Let's get to work. All right, so let's take a look at the lights that we're going to be installing today. Here in the shop, we use these Lotus LED lights. These are a super thin flush mount light. They're really nice, easy to install. We find they work really well. They also have these cool little magnet trim rings. So if we want a silver light or a white light, it's up to our customer. They can put in whatever we want. We also picked up a couple of these recess style lights. I see a lot of people use these online and on Instagram, things like that. So we wanted to install a couple of these so you can see how we would do this in our ceiling as well. Before we get to installing our lights, let's jump in the van and take a look at some of the prep work we've done so that we can keep that in mind while we're doing our light layout. Here inside the van, we've prepped our interior by putting in 8mm riv nuts in our ceiling joists, as well as using self-tapping screws to attach our 1/4-inch Baltic birch furring strips. Now these furring strips can be as big or as large as you are comfortable with. We put these up at about 7 inches because that's the width of our track for our track saw. And we put these up so that we can get even screw placement along the ceiling and have a nice even look. Before we install any lights, let's take a look at the hole pattern on our ceiling and understand what we have going on. The larger holes to the outside are here to align with the riv nuts in your roof ribs in the van. To install our flush mount lights, we're going to need to make a larger hole in our ceiling than what is provided. So I grabbed a 2-inch hole saw, which we're going to use to open up our ceiling, and we're going to make a couple of marks here for alignment. Since I'm going to be wrapping my ceiling with fabric, I'm not really worried about making Sharpie marks on the ceiling panel itself. If you were doing this and you're going to clear coat it, maybe you'd want to do this in pencil. I'm going to make a mark 1/4 of an inch off of the center line here, and that's where I'm going to center my hole saw. Now using that mark, we're going to pop a hole in our ceiling panel. With our holes drilled, we can just simply pop these lights in place. Now, let's spin the board around and I'll show you how we mount our flush mount LEDs. Installing our flush mount LEDs is pretty similar. We're just going to feed the wire through our hole, and what I do is I pivot where the wire meets the light against that hole. It has the 2 screw mounts here, and I just want those running forward, backward on the ceiling. Then we'll use the provided screws and screw them in place. With all of our lights installed in the ceiling, let's flip it over and jump to the wiring. Okay, here on the backside of our roof, we're going to make a couple of lines between each of our lights so we can run our wires along those lines. The reason we put our wires in straight lines between our lights is so that when we're going to install our roof panels or we're putting anything else up in the van, we know that in between each light is a no-go zone for any kind of screws or anything that might damage our wiring. I'm going to secure the wires to the back of our ceiling, leaving a little excess here in case I need to pull that light out and replace it in the future. I can do that without taking the ceiling down. So we always want to leave a little excess here and just go ahead and tape the wire down so it's not going to move on us. Let's do that for all of our lights. So we like to zone our lights in our vans into 2 zones, our rear zone and our front zone, with 4 lights in each zone. This rearmost ceiling panel is going to be our rear zone, so we're going to wire all of these lights together. So let's go ahead and tape our wires down in between each light. So with our wires taped in place, we're going to cut and we're going to connect all of our lights together into one circuit. So let's go ahead and trim this on the closer side to the van. Okay, and we can strip these wires out. So now we can just take our wires and we're going to put like to like. And today it's going to be extra difficult because I'm doing 2 different styles of light and the wires are backwards. And we'll put a crimp on that. And of course, we'll give it a pull test to make sure our crimp is successful. Do it again. Now let's tape our crimp down so we don't get any accidental pull on that. Again, leaving a loop so that if we need to change this light out in the future, we have a little bit of pull here. We can do that to all of our lights that are connected around. Then we're ready to test. With our wiring complete, let's go ahead and connect this to a power source so we can test and make sure all of our connections are right. I like to use these Wagos. They make testing lights or testing any kind of wiring super easy. Success! You'll notice our 2 different lights have different color temperatures. These are around a 4,000 Kelvin, and these back here are 3,000 Kelvin. They're going to give you a little bit warmer light. I prefer a warmer look in my van. With our light test successful, we're ready to do our final bit of wiring and get this ready for install. So let's just secure our wires here. And we're going to use the same rule of thumb and follow our straight lines from our lights. So we're going to make our last connections here at the driver's side front corner of the ceiling panel. I'm going to attach a couple of Wagos to my ceiling, and then I'm going to attach a 16 gauge jumper so that in the future, if I need to drop this ceiling panel, I can make a quick disconnect here and drop this entire panel together. So we're going to 3M sticky tape this down. Attach my Wagos. And connect my ceiling wires. Now I can attach my jumper. And, of course, don't forget to label the other end of that wire so that I know it's my rear ceiling. And we're ready to install this roof. With our last bit of wiring complete, we're ready to apply the same principles here to the rest of our ceiling panels. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button so others can find it. And if you made it this far, it's probably time to subscribe. We'll see you on the next video. Sorry. All right. Now I had a brain fart.